couple, Erhan Patat and Anna Zilsperger, moved to Istanbul to start Exhibist in 2011. It's one of the few English-language contemporary art magazines in Turkey, and in just 3 years, it's become Istanbul's most popular art magazine.
Just 3 years after it first appeared in 2013, the Istanbul-based magazine Exhibist can now be found in the reading room of the prestigious art exhibition Frieze, New York. The magazine's founders Erhan Patat and his wife Anna Zilsperger started it to provide people from around the world with a platform to meet.
We started with an internet platform, exhibist.com. So for 2 years we prepared the magazine in that form that we created a platform where people from abroad and from Turkey can meet, and we decided for this reason to choose the English language. In 2013 we started with the first print magazine with Art International 2013. So our first issue was printed in September 2013. Now we just going to print the 9th issue.
The German couple didn't move to Istanbul for its beautiful scenery as much for its thriving cultural melting pot.
In 2010, Istanbul was the capital of culture in Europe. And we decided that it's a good time to come here.
With its stylish design, the magazine isn't the only thing in the room that catches your eye.
As an architect, like you see, our space was designed by ourselves, and it's a bit similar to the process of the magazine, because you also have to think about the concept and then find a paper and a material which reflects the idea.
With its rich history of diverse cultures, Istanbul has always served as a center for art. Erhan and Anna are aiming for Exhibist to keep it that way.
Well, half of that couple that set up Exhibist, Anna Zilsperger, joins me now in the studio. Hello and welcome. What first gave you the inspiration to start an art magazine about the art scene in Istanbul and Turkey as a whole?
Well, in 2009-10, everyone was talking about the potential of the contemporary art scene in Turkey. I was living in London at the time, working for an auction house and looking for a change in my life, in my work, and my husband as well. He's an architect. He was working for Zaha Hadid at the time and was looking into opening his own office.
Right.
And that's how we decided to relocate to Istanbul, where he then opened his architectural office, PAD. And I looked into the art market and observed the local art scene to see which place I could have in Istanbul, in a way. And what I found is that there was not a lot of information in English about the local art scene. I felt a bit lost. I was trying to look for information and was unsuccessful. So I started to gather the information for myself to find my way, and then decided to put that information on an online platform to help other people who would be looking into the scene and would like to learn more about the scene, because I felt as well through my friends in London and Berlin, Munich and Paris that they were interested in the scene, but nobody really knew much about it or how they could get the information. So we decided to put that up, have gallery maps and exhibition reviews there, information about like what the scene entails and who's part of the scene. And that's how the online platform started. And then in 2013, we decided to add the print version to the online platform, because it kind of came natural, because it adds another aspect to the magazine. It's a printed object. Every issue has a different kind of cover. The content is different, and then that's reflected in the cover and the colors and the inside design, which creates a certain object that again can be sold in bookshops, so people would be also
So we
interested
can
in the
go and
object
pick
that
it
maybe,
up and
yeah, it's
take a
also
look.
kind of, it opens the door to the content. So people who maybe would say, oh, that's a niche art scene in Turkey, they would maybe pick it up because they like the design and the layout, and then
Discover something new,
discover
maybe.
something new. So
Right.
that was the idea behind that design.
Well, this town is definitely always bustling with mystery and action at all times. Do you think art can exist outside exhibitions and museums?
Of course it can, and it does, like site-specific art in public spaces or
Right.
performance art. There's a lot of performance art in Istanbul, actually.
Yes.
There's a lot of interesting performance artists. I mean, and then there's online art, or I don't know, conceptual art that is basically on paper, which doesn't also need a museum space. I think there's many ways that art can exist outside of museums.
Well, you keep a good tab on who's who of Turkish contemporary art while doing this magazine. Tell us some artists that have drawn your attention, or maybe some waves that we need to pay attention to.
So right now, I personally have looked a bit in detail into artist collectives. There's a lot of very interesting artist collectives from Turkey, like Hazavuzu is one of them. Pelesya, Videoist. There's like a lot of interesting artist collectives that we featured in the current issue, and that are currently also part of a show at Central Istanbul, which is really worth seeing. I can really recommend it. Very interesting because so many artist collectives at once. And then also the current issue, we featured 4 artists from Turkey. 2 of them I wrote about is Baha Yurikoğlu and Sinem Dişli. Baha just has a show at Arta called Flow Through, which is amazing, and I recommend everyone seeing it. It's ending on Sunday. It's really very special. She creates, she was inspired by the Arctic in Norway. She traveled there and she basically manifested a spatial installation through plexiglass, geometric plexiglass forms that play with light. And also the temperature in the exhibition space is cooled down to enhance the feeling of being in this Arctic environment.
Right.
And she recorded sound, so it's this all-over experience you have in her exhibition, which is very special and
Right.
fascinating. And another artist I'm really fond of is Sinem Dişli. She had a show in the fall at the Empire Project, where she related to a region around the Euphrates River in what was called Mesopotamia, where she's from originally. And she focused on a dam project in that region that affected the whole area and also the countries around it. So it's about the impact. It's a broad theme of capitalism and economy inflicting on nature,
Right.
and kind of the results that these things can have on everybody and the cycle of life in a way.
Well, on Showcase, we've been discussing lately how art can make life better for everybody involved. Do you believe that, in your personal opinion, does art have a responsibility, a role?
I think that I'm not sure about responsibility, because this would open the question who it would be responsible to, or to which concept,
Sure.
context, social structure it would be responsible to. But I think the purpose of art is to make us rethink or reevaluate the world we live in, maybe, and also, I don't know, open up ideas that we're maybe not constantly aware of in our daily life or normative social structures. So that's, I think, the purpose of art for me.
Yeah. Well, Anna Zilsberger from Exhibist magazine, thank you for joining us.